Today's theme continues our exploration of grief and loss. This will be our last week on this topic. However, it's going to be woven in. It's going to continue forwards as we move on. Because I feel like this part of our hearts is kind of our culture insists that we neglect it. So I'll be pulling this in the future. But today's theme is connected to the soul. A lot of things that we've been talking about this, a lot of the things that get in the way of our really feeling happy and peaceful are connected to this sense of loss. And it's really our lack of attention, untending of the loss. And maybe you'll remember our list. The shortened version is things like loss of status, loss of career, loss of relationships, physical abilities, cognitive abilities, loss of connection, loss of agency. That's just a tip of the iceberg. Last week we looked at the 5 gates of grief, a term coined by Francis Weller. And I'll mention a couple here just as a refresh, a couple of losses that don't typically come to mind but are poignant and worth thinking about, worth feeling. Places within us that we have banished and wrapped in shame, the loss of those places. Places we judge in ourselves and hold in contempt. Things we didn't realize we lost because we weren't born into villages that fully welcome our gifts. And he writes that expectations that have been encoded into our psyches over the last 200,000 years as we've evolved as humans aren't being met. So this unconscious disappointment, feelings of emptiness, loneliness, this loss of connection, this loss of belonging. There's a world here for exploration. And when these feelings arise, feelings of loss that probably most of us aren't super sensitive to because we have so many ways to run away. When these feelings come up, and by the way, you really want these feelings, you want this to happen regularly. You want to be able to sense into these things regularly so as to have a certain adeptness around it. When the feelings of loss come up, they can show up in these really strange ways. Like you have this need for distraction. You feel tired. You crave food. The mysterious craving of food when already full. Or some other behavior you're not really a fan of. These unwanted behaviors in us, these habits that we try to break, they're really just little red flags saying, it's like the subconscious is saying, run away, there's pain. And our work, the invitation, is to search that moment. Maybe the moment's already gone and we have to reflect back on it, which is completely fine. Searching that moment for a potential loss that might be there. Something you've already lost, something you're about to lose, something you're worried about, you're anticipating losing. Even losing your car keys. It actually invokes a deeper pain. It's a loss of freedom. And you can sense into that in the moment when it's happening. being driven by a need to please other people. Lean into that. It's a certain loss of agency, a sense of self that's not being honored. You know, what I need is A, but since I fear the loss of connection, I'm going to do B. So if you can find out what this is, this loss is, and these moments, these red flag moments, you know, feel into it. Lean into that. Let it cut a little bit before you talk yourself away from it. And I say this because the most important thing that we can do when we sense these little pains, the most important thing you can do is really feel that feeling in your physical body. And this really cannot be understated. You know, this path we walk, it's kind of like we're recovering our true selves. It feels like that. It's really paved with stones of physical sensations. What does it feel like? Because we are acculturated to be brains walking around on little legs. So what does it feel like here? So today, a skillful means of, in this arsenal or in this toolbox, let's not use that war term, in this toolbox, one of the skillful means for untangling these knots in our relationship to our loss is the practice of prayer. And prayer might be a familiar practice for some, and it might be unfamiliar for others. And what I mean by prayer is different than the traditional prayer practices of our religions, our religious traditions, although, of course, those are nourishing as well. But this prayer is something that's deeply personal, and it looks different for different people. Right? It can be spoken words, written words, journaling. Remember the woman who journaled, and then she journaled back to herself from her higher power. Movement, music, some kind of ritual of some kind. This pain that's we associate with loss of connection, it's really this yearning for a sense of belonging. We're hardwired as a species, I would argue, to be knit together, loosely or tightly, however it is, but knit together. And when we sense a break in that fabric, there's pain. And it's important to pay attention to that as our guide. And through prayer, we can actually pay closer attention. We can express this longing for belonging, because this is a bridge. Prayer is a bridge between longing and belonging. It's a way to get from one place to the next. You know, fundamentally, the more we pray for something, the more we make ourselves available to it. I'll give you an example. My morning prayer, which you are all familiar with by now, at least those of you who've been with me in metta meditations. My prayer changes over time, but it's something like this. May I be filled with loving kindness. May some comfortable, warm feeling of love suffuse this aging body of mine. May I be safe. May I be filled with gratitude for the safety that I currently enjoy. May I be aware and make wise choices today as to my mental, emotional, physical safety. May I be happy. May I know that I am enough just as I am, that I have enough. May I be healthy. May I eat well and exercise today. And may I move through this day with mindfulness and ease. May I realize this deepest desire. This prayer reminds me of the things that I long for most as I meet my consciousness in the morning. And by saying these words to myself, I'm making myself more available to what's wholesome and beneficial for me. So use prayer in whatever form that works for you to cultivate these things that really matter to you. Maybe it's a dialogue between you and the source of your life. May this pain, this fear, this anger be held by the greater source, by the higher power, by God, by Mother Nature. May what's bigger than me hold me in this. A poem by John O'Donohue. Sort of a long poem, but it's thought-provoking. It's called For Grief. When you lose someone you love, your life becomes strange. The ground beneath you becomes fragile. Your thoughts make your eyes unsure, and some dead echo drags your voice down. Where words have no confidence, your heart has grown heavy with loss. And though this loss has wounded others too, no one knows what has been taken from you when the silence of absence deepens. Flickers of guilt kindle regret for all that was left unsaid or undone. There are days when you wake up happy, again inside the fullness of life, until the moment breaks and you're thrown back onto the black tide of loss. Days when you have your heart back, you're able to function well, until in the middle of work or encounter, suddenly with no warning, you're ambushed by grief. It becomes hard to trust yourself. All you can depend on now is that sorrow will remain faithful to itself. More than you, it knows its way and will find the right time to pull and pull the rope of grief until that coiled hill of tears has reduced to its last drop. Gradually, you will learn acquaintance with the invisible form of your departed. When the work of grief is done, the wound of loss will heal, and you'll have learned to wean your eyes from that gap in the air and be able to enter the hearth in your soul where your loved one has awaited your return all the time. So what is our essence beyond our physical appearance? This mind, it's not a brain. What we are is it's not really the physical body, even though it's what we live in. It's our home. This consciousness we have is an amazing mystery. It's a miracle. And so finding our higher power so as to understand and be at peace with the miracle. It's very important. Another reading I'll share with you, Living Life Backwards. It's a reflection on life by the comedian George Carlin. The most unfair thing about life is the way it ends. I mean, life is tough. It takes up a lot of your time. What do you get at the end of it? A death. What's that, a bonus? I think the life cycle is all backwards. You should die first, get that out of the way. Then you live in an old age home. You get kicked out when you're too young. You get a gold watch, you go to work. You work 40 years until you're young enough to enjoy your retirement. You do drugs, alcohol, you party, you get ready for high school. You go to grade school, you become a kid, you play, you have no responsibilities. You become a little baby. You go back into the womb. You spend your last 9 months floating, and then you finish off as a gleam in someone's eye. Humor helps. But what supports you in connecting with the mystery? The intelligence of the universe, Nibbana, God, Mother Nature, the source. How do you connect with something larger than yourself? How do you fertilize and cultivate your intentions? This is the prayer that we can have for ourselves, that we can use. I want to point out one specific prayer, forgiveness. Blame is a dangerous form of grief. And disarming ourselves of blame is kind of an antidote for that grief. I'll just add here, if someone has injured us personally, we have to take care of ourselves, of our injury, before we can forgive others and let go. We have to have clear boundaries. We have to have our own back. We have to engage in self-forgiveness and self-compassion. But the Buddha offered a forgiveness prayer that's still widely used, and it has 3 parts. And the first part is to ask for forgiveness from those that you have harmed. And the prayer words from the Buddha's teachings, something like, I ask for your forgiveness. Please forgive me for having caused you harm. I now understand that I was unskillful and that my actions hurt you, and I ask for your forgiveness. Then, with as much mercy or compassion as possible, we offer forgiveness to those who have harmed us. People we've been holding resentment towards. I forgive you. I forgive you for the ways you've caused me harm. I offer you forgiveness. Whether the hurt came through your actions, your thoughts, your words. I know you're responsible for your actions, and I offer you forgiveness. And then, with as much compassion as we can muster, we offer ourselves forgiveness. And it can help to picture ourselves as a child, inviting these disenfranchised parts of ourselves back into the heart. I forgive myself. I forgive myself for all the ways I've caused myself harm. I know I'm responsible for my actions, and I offer myself forgiveness. This is an antidote for grief and loss. Tara Brach offered a beautiful forgiveness prayer. I give myself permission to be a learner, imperfect and on the path. I give myself permission to be a learner, imperfect and on the path. I'm noticing the time, and I'm just going to have to skip that last piece, which is fine. We'll catch it up another time. And I'll just conclude by saying that we pay attention to the pain of our losses, to our grief, not because we want to be depressed or unpleasant for others, but because we really know that it will deepen our spirit, our soul. We want to engage our hearts in these matters of the greatest import, the greatest depth. And by doing that, by reaching to those depths, we are able to be lifted, to be light. And I think one last thing I just want to say is keep starting where you are. This work is by no means easy. And every moment is literally the only moment you are ever alive. So every moment is a sunrise, a new morning. So it's an invitation to just start over, wherever you are. Just start over.